So we have with us Julia Murray, and she's professor in digital innovation, and she's responsible for marketing at the Business School of Barcelona and director of Impact. Yes.
Okay.
So.
Can we introduce ourselves now, or just?
We just. Oh, yeah, why don't you?
Afterwards, yeah. Yeah. After we present you all, you can have all of you a moment when you introduce yourself more detailed. So our next panelist is Leonardo Barilaro, that you already saw and it was introduced. So I will give him afterwards the floor to present him a little bit more from the aerospace point of view. And then we have here Tomas Ducai, who is a student in the microbiology and genetics at the Institute of Science and Technology in Austria, but also philosophy and psychology at the University of Vienna. He's a board member within the Committee of Human Analog Space Missions, so very active young man who will know a little bit more in a couple of minutes. Our next panelist is Enrique Sanchez, so head of the European Quantum Flagship and head of the policy at the European Physical Society. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, excellent. So we have also with us Ines Gomez de Castro, a long-term colleague and friend. She is a full professor of astronomy and astrophysics, and at the Complutense de Madrid, the biggest university in Spain, as we know, and a long-term colleague, as she has been working also on project with the European Space Agency and works at the time with the International Ultraviolet Explorer. It was launched, 76, but yeah. And she also took care of building the whole database of the spectra from the IUE. And I remember some nice memories of time when we were going to the station in Villafranca, operating the spacecraft around the clock. But she has been also involved in a number of big projects with astronomy. And she's a core member of EuroSpaceHub as well. And and we are going to put telescope on the moon together. Okay, so that's Ines. Then we have Lina Baksiene from the Technology Transfer Office. And also she's an expert and a lawyer in intellectual property, and from Vilnius Tech, also a core member of EuroSpaceHub. As you know, Vilnius Tech is also the coordinator of our EuroSpaceHub in there. So that's for the presentation of our panel. So
now we will give the floor to our panelists to introduce themselves a little bit more for our audience. So we will start with ladies first. Sorry, but that's what common sense says. So I'll give the floor to Julia.
Hello everybody, thank you for having me here. I think the fact that I'm here is in fact a testament to the collaboration that you have here, because my work isn't to do with space, but it is to do with responsible business, and also I'm involved in Outlook is Human, which is a responsible tech association from the United States that really helps to unpack and champion responsibility within the tech and business industries, not just the impacts, but also the inputs. So how do we actually create tech that is responsible from the beginning, that has no biases, that has specific planned externalities. So there's a lot that I think is in common, but I like the title of this panel, Collaboration for Innovation, because that's exactly what we're doing here. This is the place. So of course we have the leads of this project, like Pasquale, who is the expert on collaboration for innovation as well. So My work at the moment is kind of divided between the responsible business part, but also creative and fashion. So that's kind of my background, and there's a lot of a sort of collaboration within all my work. So it's like different fields, multidisciplinarity is what drives me really, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you very much. So next we'll just switch on the same couch. So Enrique.
Thank you so much for being here. Is it working? No, it's not working. Is on? Yes. Is it working now? Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So, well, first of all, thank you so much for being invited to be here with you. I am working in Brussels as the head of the office of the European Physical Society in Brussels, as well as the representation of the European Quantum Flagship Initiative that has, let's say, one specific part for space technologies. So my background, I'm an astrophysicist actually, I'm doctor in quantum physics, but what we do normally is this getting the inputs from our communities that touches from basic science to, let's say, companies, startups that are, let's say, technology based, and then talking with the European institutions in order to help driving and making the policies that affect to our communities in space, in science, in quantum technologies, etc. So definitely collaboration is something extremely important in order to get all the inputs. We represent 130,000 physicists in Europe. I mean, I cannot really listen all that, so there should be, let's say, networks of networks of networks, then the message somehow arrives. And these messages are extremely important to the policy-making process, always. And then, obviously, that's what I would like to transmit here. Let's say the collaboration for the policy-making process definitely affects so much in the leadership process as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Ines for her presentation.
Okay, so after the beautiful presentation that Bernard, it's not. Right. Now it doesn't work.
Okay. We can borrow this in the meantime. And we call rescue astronaut.
No. Maybe Lina can go
Yes.
ahead and. Okay.
Very well.
Yes.
Okay, so. Okay. Is it working?
I don't know.
No, yeah, I think that you can use this one.
Okay, no problem. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Lina Baksiene. First of all, it is a pleasure to be here in this beautiful island, Ibiza, in EuroSpaceHub Ibiza forum. I'm very glad to meet you all here. So, I'm from Lithuania, Vilnius Gediminas Technical University. I'm working in Knowledge and Technology Transfer Center. The main competencies of our center are the promotion of commercialization of R&D results, knowledge and technology transfer, partnerships, collaboration, international cooperation in R&D and innovation development, new business opportunities. So I'm working with researchers, helping them to share their knowledge with industry. So also I'm responsible for intellectual property. My background is patents. I'm helping researchers to prepare applications for national and international level patents. It's not so easy. It's a long way to get a patent, especially European patent, and it costs a lot of money. But we have several patents, and I could be proud of our researchers in the university. So I think it's short.
from this.
Thank you very much.
So now I try, yes,
Yes,
it works. Right. So, well, I am in this panel as a researcher. So I'm a researcher that works with industry to produce innovation. So we are really in the conundrum of the transfer. Okay? As I said the other day, I am a space scientist, and I've been the responsible of several missions. And one of them is to build a large 1.7 meter primary, so big space telescope between Spain and the Russian Space Agency. So this has involved the participation of Spanish companies in the industrial packages. And we have, for instance, developed a detector for this instrument, the one we are working with, which is a detector for the far UV. Okay? So what happens when scientists interact with engineers and companies? We want the best. So the engineers tend to be a bit conservative because they don't like risk, especially in the big companies, and we have to push them a bit. So in this case, we had the great advantage of the company we were working with and working with another company that resourced for some very specific application to a university in Ducai. So the people who was in charge finally of making the deposit of certain substrate on the detector were people at the Leicester University in Ducai. And then we managed, with their help, to do a detector that it is now 3 times more sensitive than the previous detectors in the wavelength range of interest for us. Okay, so this is a typical kind of research and innovation. So we have present technology, we have got something better, driven by scientific interest, and transfer this knowledge to the industry. Okay? And this sounds like very natural. We have to do with we talk about that. But in the practice, it's a lot of work. And it is hard because there are many interests involved. And to get all the interest with a resultant force that points in a given direction, that's not easy. No? So it's, I think that there is a lot of work to do in that sense, but this work needs funding. And I think that it is a fundamental issue on all this topic, because this process is not very much understood by many of the funding actors. This interaction and the strength that requires.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna afford a little personal experience talking about researchers and engineers. I once had the opportunity to be in the control room of Curiosity, the rover that's on Mars, and the head engineer will explain us how it works, and I was there in the audience with sparkles and the stars in my eyes, and asking a lot of questions, and at one point he just stopped and he looked at me and he said, "You're a researcher, you're a fundamental researcher." And I was like, "What? Why?" Because we engineers are here to explain you researchers that you can be a dreamer, but we will tell you what's feasible and what's not. So from the point of view of an engineer, today they feel like fundamental research is a little bit too much of a dream, and they are there to just tell us or work with us. What I'm trying to tell my students is work with researchers because they have a lot of things to give. Just work together in order to find a solution to make their dreams and your common dreams come true. So I think it's a nice way to see the collaboration between engineers and scientists, and of course other fields we will open now for that. So without further adding comments, I'll give the floor to one of the students that we have here. We have the honor to have here as a panelist. Ines, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Does it work? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so first of all, I would like to thank you for having me here. It's a real great honor and pleasure to be here and to discuss with that very interesting field the topic of innovation in research. And maybe as a short introduction of how I got in the field of space sciences. I have an everlasting interest in astronomy, which has developed already in my childhood, and I was really very glad to complete and to attend an elective subject in my grammar school called astronomy, where I also graduated in. However, I also have an everlasting interest in life sciences and biology in particular. So I've decided then to begin my studies in biology, but within the field of microbiology and genetics. And especially in that field, I've realized that I could somehow merge my interest on the one hand in astronomy and on the other hand in life sciences, in biology, and realized that there is a field called space life sciences, which I found really very interesting. Already the term space life sciences, I think has a lot to do with the topic of our panel, collaboration for innovation in research, because space life sciences is a very collaborative field, and therefore I'm happy to be here to share my first experiences as a young professional in that field.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Leonardo.
Windows Stress, yes. So, as an aerospace engineer, my field of specialization is in space safety. So, aerospace structures are subjected to hypervelocity impacts due to the space debris that are orbiting our planet. And basically all the projects I'm following are based on collaborations, international collaborations. I am a senior lecturer for the Malta College for Art, Science and Technologies in Malta. I'm collaborating with Italy, University of Padova, Dublin, Southeast Technological University, the Astrophysics Italian Institute. So several projects, and also Mallet was done at the national level with a collaboration between Castro and the University of Malta, and a research center in Saudi Arabia. The astronaut that handled the experiment is astronaut Sultan Al-Nayadi. There is SpaceX involved, NASA, European Space Agency, with also a private company, Space Application Services, so big collaborations. Also, for the students, I know here are students, raising your hand, who is a student here. I just wanted to share my personal experience. During my bachelor in aerospace engineering, I went to an event in Padova where Professor Bernard was one of the speakers, so it was the first time I saw a person, and of course, Lina, you are talking about these projects, I was really in full admiration. And there was when I was involved in my first important ESA project during my first year of PhD, was another event when I met Professor Bernard again. So these events, these possibilities of networking are very important seeds for what can become years after possibilities for international collaborations. And also, was during the same year, I met now a person that also became a lecturer in Dublin, and now we are collaborating since nearly 2 years about a project related to spacecraft repairing using a cold welding adhesion for spacecraft that are subjected to space debris. So I really support this possibilities of networking and meeting people, being inspired by people, because I was lucky enough to be inspired by several people in my journey till now, and this can lead to collaborations and to possibilities that otherwise wouldn't be possible if everyone is just a player in its own backyard.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. So we have our moderator here who has a very rich past in research, who everyone here can attest that he's the central point of why and how we got here. I will ask him if he would allow us indulge us with the answer, what's research and collaboration for him in order to have innovation.
Okay. Yeah, so I started space research some decades ago. Actually, the first one was for my PhD. I worked on the sounding rocket. So we launched the rocket, and I prepared a launch from White Sands in the US. And then I went for another adventure in South America, where I worked for the European Southern Observatory. Also a collaborative endeavor between many countries from Europe in the best place for skies in the world. Then I returned to Europe, already in love with Europe and in love with space research. And so I worked in a French space research agency, but then I wanted to join European Space Agency, which is, really the cocoon of international collaboration. We have 22 countries, member states, but we collaborate with many others. There, actually, I was head of research, so really fully devoted to research, but had to become a kind of space research diplomat. We talk about diplomacy on Friday, but clearly it's a place where international collaboration is our daily activity. But it's important that it is with this focus of research, because research, we have science objectives, we have technology objectives, but we have also this human objective of delivering knowledge for society. Now, okay, I left, so I was involved in research, studying the sun, studying the stars, different missions, on International Space Station, Moon mission, Mars mission. And there was also a great potential there, also to deliver innovation. But now is the stage where we have to find a new way to harvest all this investment in research that we have done. To invest it in opportunities for new jobs for young professionals. Also technology development that are serving the Earth as well, or technology development on Earth that are going to go to space. And this is now what I'd like to focus on. And that's why we have with our partners from Linus, from Complutense, from Collabwiz, from ISU, we have created this EuroSpaceHub consortium. And this is, I try to really establish research as one of these pillars, but I've met collaborators which are also coming from the business side. And I think that this is the next phase. And I would like then to challenge all of you towards the end of this panel to try to see what could we do in 1 year, because we have a big event in 1 year that can really advance this area of research for collaboration and innovation, and how we can involve all the generation. So this is my little challenge for you.
Thank you very much, Professor Foing. So going forward, my next question, because we have a few paths already. Thank you for the transition, Perrier. What are, for each of you, the good practices for a collaboration while involving multidisciplinary fields? So how do you manage when you have people from different horizons getting together around a table and trying to work together. So who would like to go first for this one? Lina?
Yeah, okay, I can start. I think it is very important to establish clear goals and objectives. It's very important to define the goals with the teams that we could collaborate together and to work together to foster open communication, encourage and open, honest communication between team members, and to set clear roles and responsibilities of each team member. So, and understand that our individual contributions are very important because we are from different backgrounds and we're connected. So it's very important to following this and to have clear goals and objectives, what we're doing in the projects and some partnerships, international projects.
Thank you very much. So talking about multidisciplinary field, Thomas, you're very multidisciplinary. How do you see that?
Yes, I totally agree that multidisciplinarity could be or is a real enrichment to foster innovation, and I think especially when we are talking about space sciences or astronomy, this is a really good field that where, and it's really inclusive from standpoint of disciplines as there are so much opportunities for life scientists, for social scientists, for philosophers, from also politicians, and when it gets politics, when economics, when it gets to the practice and business. So I think, and this is also a benefit of the collaboration, that when we choose one topic, let's say within space sciences, that we can come up with really something innovative if a lot of people from a lot of disciplines bring up their ideas to the table to approach a project in such a field.
Thank you very much. Okay, very nice. Yes, I was going to give you the hand to Enrique because he talked about politics.
Thank you so
And what about that?
Yeah, thank you so much. So, well, I was just thinking on, well, working in Brussels, okay, let's say we have periods of different battles, if I can say, against, okay, but it's more in a collaborative sense with the European institutions. But it's typically every 7 years we have to defend big budget for science, globally speaking, okay, globally speaking, more money for science, and then later less money for agriculture, for example. I mean, when there is more money for one place, then there's less for another, typically, so then you have to go with arguments to defend that. And then later, there are normally new regulations that cut the budget in science. That's something very common. And there are, let's say, other little fights in, every year, every 2 years. So for that, let's say collaboration between, multidisciplinary collaboration, in the sense that people that work in microelectronics, in space, in basic research in this specific field of physics, in this other, they put together one document, and then you go with one document, and then you put it into the table of the politician and say, this document represents 500,000 people. This document represents these numbers in the GDP in Europe. This represents this, and then if you put more money or put less money, consequences are going to be this ones or that ones. Let's say, many times it is very easy to me just write the document by myself and put it. However, when a document represents a community that is endorsed by the community, that is a very strong message to politicians. They typically like it because many times you realize they know, but they don't know very well what they are administrating. That's the reality. I mean, they know about administration, but they don't know about specific topics in science, right? And best practices to do this, I will say that at the end you need to create, Zoom calls with many people saying, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that. Strong leadership, but that requires transparency, meaning being willing to receive critics, accept them. Okay, I have seen that. Not hiding information because, okay, if I hide this, then I will get money for my little corner, but not to be. That's something important. Politicians, they know that very well because this happens everywhere. And I will say this also changing the mindset. You cannot present a document more than 2 pages to a politician. Period. So, oh no, but we have to include this, oh no, we have to include that. Oh no, and then, okay, 30 pages document, great, nobody's gonna read it. Really. So, these are the kind of didactics that I try to do to my communities, and then actually I will say, we are kind of successful. Okay, but it takes time, but these are actually one of the best practices that I would like to communicate to, because this works for space, but works for any community, I would say.
Thank you very much. We're talking about strategies. Julia.
I was very interested in what you were saying about the let's say, more political scene and how it works. On a more commercial level, I think it's more practical. Definitely, it is about understanding the benefits of each of the parties. What do they want to get out of this project, and what do they want to bring in? This is quite kind of basic, but in order to understand the needs of a business in terms of its development, innovation, you need to find the right people to talk to. This isn't just anybody in the business, so that takes time, of course. Now we're working on the impact projects, which are ways to help companies understand their global impact on society, environment, and governance. Within Ioana Business School, we have a project with companies on that topic. And many of them are interested, but finding the right documentation, for example, to prove or to show a specific need is actually the potential challenge. And then I would add to this, apart from that, the idea of developing trust. In order to collaborate long term, you need to give time to develop trust that the outcome or the output will be completed, and it will have a positive effect on all the parties within the collaboration. So I think I'll say benefits and trust are sort of the main parts.
Thank you very much, Julia. We're talking about multidisciplinarity, and once again, I will turn to Leonardo, who's having all by himself a panel of multidisciplinary fields that is in one person. How do you do that? How do you do that, and how do you handle your collaboration, your practices with other
I
actors?
speak more on the technical side, but the focus should be on the diplomatic part, as it was correctly highlighted, and on the communication part. So, in my opinion, the technical part very often is the easiest one, based on my little experience so far. When you collaborate, there is one issue that is also an opportunity, which is the communication that risks to be fragmented, and above all if is involving different countries, people with a different background. But it's also an opportunity because you can learn a lot from this exchange. The other one is the own assessment that is done at the beginning, so what can be realistically been achieved, and which is the workload, because everyone of course wanted to understand which benefits can have from the project, and sometimes I saw difficult to push the long-term vision about some activities. So when I'm dealing with these projects that involve also artists, scientists of different background, I try to focus on the communication first, because is always humans interacting with humans. So from a technical point of view, for example, you perfectly know ESA practices are great as Lina. There are proven practices, there are ways of dealing with the documentation, technical reports. So I also, already when I was doing my PhD, I never had problems interacting with people from France, Germany, Japan, with international projects. One thing that is very good is to have a mentor, and here we go back also to the concept of strong leadership, because yes, science is democratic, but I believe that projects above all are super important, like putting a telescope on the moon. There is the need of a strong leadership that doesn't come from authoritarianism, but from authority, because who has a true big experience in the field has a different way of seeing at things, at problems, and the risk goes down in the hierarchy till students starting from the bachelor, master, and so on. So this is in a nutshell my vision.
Thank you very much. So we saw inspiration, strategy, communication, a lot of good patterns. I'm gonna move towards Ines because I believe you're very rich in experience through these collaborations. And besides the practices that you will explain, you will express yourself on that, how you encourage people to move forward with this multidisciplinary, but also to go together for innovation. So, the floor is yours.
Okay, there are two issues here, okay? One is what we call research and making a multidisciplinary research, even if it is producing a facility, project among many people. That's one type of problem. The other type is what we call innovation. Because normally innovation is understood from the point of view of transfer to the society in terms of patents, industry, etc., etc. Okay, so these are two aspects that normally are mixed up, and if you are an engineer, they are quite obviously tied. But if you are a basic scientist and astrophysicist, like Bernard or me, we are basic scientists, the transfer is not so clear, okay? It goes through the development of an special test or whatever. I agree with everything that has been said. I think that to get the things done, you need to have very clear where are you going. Okay, so if you don't have very clear which is your objective, you are gone. And the second is to get everybody on the ship, everybody convinced that the ship is going to that place and you have to work together, etc. And that means that the most important to get one of these things done, one big project done, is the team. I mean, it's the leader, but it is also the team. And it is often forgotten, but the team is fundamental. You need to have a group of people involved in companies, researchers, data scientists, that are willing to work together, and they are all very competent in their fields. If not, you cannot do it. My experience working with the industry, in general, it has been very good. Okay, so the engineers, they love doing their work. They want to, they enjoy very much working with scientists because it's a challenge, not like doing everyday job. So they enjoy that. But this is at the level of the engineers. When you work with the company, you also have the managerial staff. And this is about benefit and business. So they always ground you, okay? You may be dreaming, but they ground you and tell you, no, you will have to go. And you have to deal with that. You have to learn to deal with that. But I mean, it is not an unsurmountable difficulty. It's something that you have to learn to deal with. Now, concerning the transfer to innovation, that's the hard part, I think, in here. because this is not trivial for a researcher, okay? You may have come with a good idea, you can even get through and get a European patent, fine. But now you have to find how to put it into market, how to commercialize it, how to, and also that you need funds. And you need to understand the market, and you have to enter into a business-oriented mind. And a business-oriented mind is not a research-oriented mind. Don't worry, I mean, it's not exactly the same, because we are working with different parameters, no? And this is what I find terribly difficult. Okay, so while making a research project, getting the people on board, pushing forward, taking companies, taking researchers, taking institutions from many different countries. Okay, for instance, for this lunar observatory, we have on the ship people from Japan and people from Colombia, which are, I mean, completely different, and we are going at it, no? The problem is the transfer to the productive system. And I think that's one of the reasons, one of the main reasons for being together with Bernard pushing this EuroSpaceHub, okay? Because we understand that this is fundamental for society, for all of us, because these transfers will also make easier for the politicians to understand that putting money into research is good for society in many, many different senses. But it is not clear. We have not the tools in the current academic structure in most places to do this.
So we're talking about communities, different communities. We're talking about different infrastructures, because we have laboratories, but also we have tools like a little bit more theoretical, or marketing, or policy, passion, of course, multidisciplinarity, experience for Bernard, because he put a spacecraft on the moon. What I can see here, we need strategy, we need all the disciplines together, because each and every one person has his force, his field that can move the mountains, but also they need a rhythm, they need to be on the same line, and they need to work together. So, talking about working together, I believe all of you have experiences, different experiences. Do you have a success story that you would like to share with us? Who would like to start? Someone?
I can start.
Thank you.
With an anecdote, it is in the European Physical Society in Brussels. Knowing that, being in collaboration with other disciplines in science, and we created a coalition of with the European Chemical Society, European Mathematical Society, actually one for aerospace is included as well, even people from social science, thank you so much, 500,000 researchers, globally speaking, represented. Then in 2004, I was still probably a student of Ines by that time. And she was my professor, very good, by the way. And they facilitated the creation of the European Research Council. Then probably most of you know that is one of the agencies that fund basic research with this principle of openness, blue sky research, based on excellence, not based on quotas of any kind. It has a lot of critics by other ways, right? But let's say creating an agency that is defending these principles, it was clearly, or let's say, politicians couldn't create that without the support of the whole community, because the whole community was saying the same message, and people from social science, from space, from physics, from chemistry, from math, they were saying, we need this in order to progress better. We cannot, and there have been like almost 20 years after that, in which we can say, okay, the ERC clearly has been a success. for many different ways. I don't know how many Nobel Prizes have been out of the ERC, okay, but I know a couple of those. Okay, so this is actually one example. Going to something that could be more for, let's say, specific disciplines. In the field of quantum technologies, that also has, let's say, quantum space research, but for gravimetry, for metrology, for communications, etc. About 2015, the community created a document, okay, called the Quantum Manifesto. It was a document endorsed by about 3,000 scientists, and this was again presented to the European Commission. And also knowing, I mean, at the end, people inside of the administration, they also have their motivations. And motivations inside of the administration typically is grow inside of the structure. And when they get a file that they can somehow potentiate, and then they can get visibility compared with the other department in the other ministry, that works. I mean, I can say it's not a secret. Quantum technologies in the European Commission has been more successful than, I would say, microelectronics or other kind of similar disciplines. Okay, and then you can see inside of the administration the visibility that this has gotten. And for example, now they are planning space programs in the European Commission. They are planning one specific mission for quantum gravimeters in a space mission. Okay, and I remember the policy officer telling me, okay, this is useful because this, because that, we want to get this, they want to improve security, they want to improve the prospection that they can do in, let's say, for minerals, for oil, and for security applications, etc. But at the end, they are not experts on that. But they have listened well the community, but also because the community has said, well, if you do this with this satellite, you can get this, you can get that, you can get that. And then they do your own story and they say, okay, this is it. So
finding the interest for each collaborator.
Yeah.
So everyone finds its own interest in a common goal, in a common project. Thank you for sharing. That was very interesting. Someone else? Success story? Yes?
Well, you know, the success story for every industry, but it's inspiration, I think, for me right now. The movement, there's quite a few different movements happening right now. So, of course, there's regulation, there are associations at political levels, but I think we should also tap into the movements that are happening from grassroots in these kinds of initiatives, because a lot of innovation starts from passion and from people coming together in a kind of clusters on their own and then building up into a bigger scale. So a couple of those movements mentioned before, All Tech is Human, which is a non-governmental organization that emerged in the States in order to recognize the ethical imprint or footprint that technology has in everybody's lives, and really working with all stakeholders, from education to tech companies to programmers, engineers, to try and re-educate in an ethical way how technology is developed, particularly looking at inclusion, particularly looking at recognizing bias early on within development and design stages of technology. So really, I'm really impressed by these kind of movements. And the other movement I mentioned was B Corps. And again, B Corps are a certification from a non-profit organization, let's say, that developed across the world now. So there's B Labs in different countries, in different regions that help companies, this is for-profit companies in this case, achieve a certification of B Corp. Okay, so this is a whole process and so on. And the good practice there, I would say, is very clear tools, very clear roadmaps that make the movement, even though it's grassroots, it's very readable, it's very clear what it is, how it's working, who are the stakeholders, what's the governance, and so on. So a couple of inspirations, hopefully, for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was wondering who would like to share.
Okay, so I am going to tell you one story, and this is about the creation of the Latin lunar lobby. Okay, so we want to put an observatory on the moon, as Leonardo said, but we need momentum and we need a lot of contributors because it is expensive, especially flying to the moon and keeping it on lunar orbit. No? So we have started a collaboration and the creation of this lobby. And in this lobby we have all kind of personalities. We have scientists, but we have many lawyers. And we have policy makers from many countries in Hispanic America. And we have colleagues working with us. For instance, we have colleagues in Mexico, in the Institute of Nacional de Óptica Espacial, and they're in Ioana, and then they are producing optical elements for our camera. We have people in collaborators in the Institución Universitaria de Envigado, which is in Medellin, and they are reusing their software knowledge. They are doing a lot of software for big logistic companies, distribution companies from the US. So they are applying that to data distribution, to create small centers to distribute the data from a lunar observatory to all the educational network through the world, and using exactly the same kind of things. And this is very exciting. I've worked with communities, and I helped coordinated communities in which were only scientists or scientists and technologists. But this is the first community where we are involving basically all the society. The only thing that we don't have is businessmen or businesswomen, which may be a mistake, but it is working. I don't see any worse.
So thank you very much. It's a nice example of a nice community, a large community, and very different infrastructures to work together. Good luck for the next step and finding collaborators for the business part. Okay, someone else before we close up?
I mentioned, to be very short, a success story because it represented the seed. So it was during my PhD, and I took part to the ESA Rexus program. And that was an occasion to really start collaborating with people from all over Europe and not only. And the team of which was part for the SCAT experiment for this stratospheric flight was made by 9 people. And we were lucky because it was our first big, real important project, and it was successful. But this was a seed to boost the self-confidence of everyone in saying, okay, so we can achieve big things as a team. And nowadays, all the people part of this team are working at ESA, Airbus, most of them left Italy, actually are working all over the world, and at a very important projects. And also, a success story itself is a Mallet 3 project where I took part as an aerospace engineer and as a pianist. And all a certain way that we started to develop, to work in a team and to collaborate internationally with that experience. In the years I grew up, and I'm applying on a daily basis a certain way of doing things. And I see that is very effective for communicating with people in another country. Also considering doing meetings with very big different time zones, so everyone is in a different mood, being in a different part of the day. That seems a detail, but it has an impact on how we deal with things. So, having the possibility of at an early stage, so here I'm referring above all to who is a student here, having the possibility to take part in a success story, a successful project, space mission, and having proper mentors is something that, if it is developed properly during the years, grow up with you and helps a lot also for a much bigger thing. So that was a stratospheric flight, yes, a space mission, but a relatively smaller dimension of what took part after or what can be done. So I wanted to mention this because it always stayed in my heart, this very first big step, and probably you remember the SCAT project, so I wanted to share this.
Thank you very much. So learning from its own success stories or other success stories and working forward in order to achieve its own goals. That's very nice. Thank you very much for sharing. I'll leave the last but not least moderator, Professor Wolny.
So I would like to share a success story, but that's for next year. A success story where I want to challenge you to take a pledge. We are in a nice hub. Hub is a place where you are cozy with colleagues, but hub is also a place where we develop projects, we produce honey. So what will be the honey you can produce for EuroSpaceHub in the next year? Any concrete project? So I would like to give each of you like 30 seconds, like to do elevator pitch of what you could do for enlarging our EuroSpaceHub initiatives, in particular on the topic of research for innovation and collaboration. So anything that you could take a pledge and try to do in the next year. Should I start with Leonardo?
Sure.
Okay. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I
oh yeah, yeah. And then we go, all of you. 30 seconds each.
First of all, I would be really honored if, as I'm Castro, so Martin College of Arts, Science and Technologies, we can join the hub. This would be an amazing step. And what can be done in 1 year would be the involvement of students, starting from STEM activities for who just finished high school, so starting the university journey, bachelor student, and above all the master student for the project aerospace engineering. What can be pushed from my side is collaborating to a project where we develop interest in science, and I want to know more about the Observatory of the Moon, and embedding it in it also space art. So to like with the music contest that has been done for this forum and the art contest, to open the possibility of participation involving artists and the possibility to reach a bigger public and more interested people.
Just so you know, he's taking notes.
Yes, so
He has an open document on his phone and he's taking notes every time someone says something interesting. He's taking notes.
Thomas,
Yeah.
what is your pledge?
I really would like to bring forward a topic that I haven't really talked about much, and it is referring also to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, like the equal opportunity for everyone. So, as me being a wheelchair user, I really would like to spreading my success stories that I have had the chance of being involved in such inspirational projects, which are, I think, not that known as they could be, which are really inclusive, bringing also an inclusive environment for especially able people in the space sciences, and I really would like to spread the word about that. I think space should be for everyone.
Okay, let's
Thank
do
you very
that.
much.
The question was, what can I do in 30 seconds for EuroSpaceHub? So
In 1 year, yes.
In one year time. I can do an analysis of the possible stakeholders that are interested on participating at different levels in the EuroSpaceHub, putting them together in a room, in a virtual one, of course, and then see how all these people, and then try to see a couple of bullet points that in common that they can bring to EuroSpaceHub, okay, to somehow elevate and push whatever the Space Hub wants to do in the future.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, first of all, the Business School will be, of course, honored to be part of this hub going forward. And as you mentioned, quite a few of you, that the business aspect isn't as represented as it could be. That could be something interesting. One of the key questions always for projects that are coming from research is the commercial viability. And I think that's something we can definitely work around and look at different aspects of that, either through projects with students or on a more kind of consulting or research basis. The other thing I mentioned a lot was responsible technology, and I think that's a topic that needs to be analyzed with experts in your field to really understand which technologies and try and unpick all of the different impacts that those different technologies will have on various stakeholders, the environment, and society.
Thank you very much. What about our honorable lawyer, Lina?
Okay. So being as a partner of EuroSpaceHub project, I think we should continue and next year to prepare one big event to involving more stakeholders, also business companies, researchers, students, because we will have to create one event next year, I think. So we need to think of this, to collect everybody, to share all our knowledges and to connect.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I have a dream.
That's nice.
The dream is to have the transfer offices of all the partners working together and making a common block with the patents office, the European Patents Office, to go together and open the path for future alliance like that of the universities.
It will be different DT offices or one big DT office that we communicate.
That would be up to you because I am not the transfer office.
Yes,
but I think
yes.
that make the transfer offices of all our partners working
Promote
together
more promotion.
into the patent office, European Patent Office. That would be a huge step in European coordination because I mean you are Latvia, we are Madrid, the other people is Strasbourg. I mean we are moving all over Europe exactly, and there are coming. I mean I don't know. You know that if you get a European patent, then you have to go country by country deciding where you want to go.
You have to choose different countries where you can spread your patent. Yeah.
So I think that this will work. I mean, this will be a very important contribution to European transfer to innovation.
So, ladies and gentlemen, have you seen that? This is how it works. This is how it starts, and I hope this is how we'll continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Professor Foing.
And what about you, Roxanna? About, for instance, in the Toulouse space ecosystem, how can we grow at Earth? Oh my God, we have an action plan for next year.
Yes.
Growing our initiatives, making them sustainable. So what could you do with you?
What am I doing with myself? No, not with myself. But thank you. I'm gonna join the dream of Ines. I have those dreams too. Now for me it was mostly putting out there my students, making them aware of all the ecosystem that's there for them, for our future. They are our future. We're here to guide them. We are actors also, of course, because we have experience. We're based on other experience. Bernard was saying yesterday that every time he starts a phrase, he starts with we, even if he's talking about himself. But we say we because we, even if it's our own personal work, we're based on the work of someone else, on the experience of someone else. So yes, when you say, this is my project, actually is your project based on someone else's, a large community, a large experience, thousands of years of experience of someone else. So yes, we can do it together. We have questions.
Yes,
from the
excellent.
public, so
We
that's
are going
very
to.
nice.
So let's go. So while we have some questions, so we have a pledge. Okay, getting EuroSpaceHub branch of the patent office.
Yes.
We are looking at
To prepare
events in Malta. We have an event also in Toulouse. We will have a wrap up in Vilnius. We'll get an analysis of how we can grow at EuroSpaceHub, also with the rest of the stakeholders, the business part, an action plan also on inclusion. So, any pledge from the audience? Who wants to give a pledge from the audience of what you could do for EuroSpaceHub in the next year?